All right, guys, so if you've watched any of my videos, you might have noticed that I have a very unique flight system or flight rig setup. I don't use a HOTAS. I use my Oculus Quest 2 VR headset and the controllers that came with it. So I didn't want to get into, when I got into flight sims, I didn't want to have to buy a HOTAS. The ones that I wanted were very expensive and all, so I just thought, you know what, screw it, I'm going to make my own. Luckily, some of the airplanes that I fly allow you to use the controllers. You can actually grab the flight stick and you can grab the throttle and push buttons and things on the aircraft panels. So I got lucky in that regard. But in that, I've started creating this flight stick and then the throttle controller, and it's been several different versions of this, and this is the one that I've stuck with. It seems to be the most solid. So I've had a lot of questions about how do I make one? Where can I buy one? You know, how does that work? So I do have a video out there on how to build the flight stick. I don't really have a video out there on how to build this. It's pretty simple. I think if you just look at it, you'll be able to figure out how to build it. And you can kind of make your own design around it. But in the details, I'll put links on there on what the names of the parts, where to get them. And, you know, if you have any questions, give me a shout. I'll be glad to give you any information. With all that being said, let's take a closer look at the throttle controller. Okay, so now let's take a closer look at the throttle controller mount. So it's very simple. You can get pretty much all the parts, like I said, on Amazon for the rails, and then everything else could be found at your local hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot. The base board is a 1/2-inch board. I use the medium density board, but you can use plywood board, anything that's 1/2-inch or 3/4 inch. I wouldn't go any thinner than that because you need to have a solid base, and it needs to kind of have some weight to it. The base coming up here is nothing more than a 4x4, and for me, a good measurement is at about 13.5 inches, almost 14 inches tall, but that really depends on how high your chair is. So you might want to sit down and kind of measure your chair out to see more or less where your hand is going to rest. And again, you can adjust this. You can make this any way you want, any height you want, and you can use piping, tubing, whatever it is you want. I happen to have 4x4s in my garage, so I thought, okay, well, that's what I'm going to use, and it works out perfect. It's nice and solid. These holes are just for decoration, and at one point they were a nice place to grab it before I put the rail in, just to kind of help move it around. And then the slide rails are 24-inch. These are two 24-inch rails. You buy them in pairs. And they come with these sliders on there as well. So it all kind of fits together. The top section here is it's a 1x4. I just cut it. Actually, it was a 1x5, I believe, or a 1x6. I cut it down to about 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches, just so that I'd have enough room to mount the floor flange. The floor flange is 1.25 inch, just a regular metal steel floor flange. And then I've put in the PVC 1/4 inch with this particular angle is a 60-degree angle. They do make them 90 degrees. So if you want your throttle to come across this way, you can do it that way, or you can do 45 degrees, or you can do the 60-degree. I happen to like the 60-degree because it gives me some room to put my leg underneath. It's not right up on my leg where I'm actually sliding back and forth on my leg. And then, of course, the part that I slide the controller in is custom formed. This part, I have a tool or a template, if you will, that I heat this up, and you'll see that in some of the other one of the other videos that I have out there. You'll see that I heated this up with my heat gun, got it nice and hot, and then I stuck the my tool in there to form it, and then I've added the leather cover just so it feels nice when I grab it. And it actually has furniture tape on the inside, something that you would use to patch a hole in your leather couch or something. I put that on the inside just to give it some, to help protect the controllers. But it also makes it nice and snug, fits in there nice. And again, in order to use it, you have to press the button in, keep it held in, and then slide it in. And once it's in, then it engages the actual throttle controller in the game. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. It's very simple. You can use whatever materials you want. This seems to work for me. It was pretty inexpensive. Again, PVC pipe, 1.25 inch for the frame. You can go with the frame or without the frame. You'll see that in some of my latest videos. I really like having the frame in there because it makes me feel like I'm actually resting my arm on the console on the inside of the aircraft. just kind of gives me more of that immersion feel. So, you know, you can get all the parts at local hardware store. It's very simple. All right, so I wanted to give you a closer look at my flight stick. Again, this is the version 2.0. I added the curve to it because I fly a lot of helicopters. And that's pretty much the way they are in helicopters. And I'll tell you, it made a difference when I went from this as opposed to the straight stick. It made a big difference. And also, this works really good in normal airplanes, F-18, and it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. So as you can see, it's built just like the other one, just like the throttle controller, made out of PVC. Underneath, I have a 1/4 inch tubing. I'm sorry, I have a 1 1/4 inch coupler, rubber coupler, and that's what gives you that sense of friction, that tension, that firmness that you need in there. It really makes it feel authentic. And then I have it mounted to 1 1/4 inch floor flange with a, I happen to use a 4-inch, 1 1/4 inch nipple, steel nipple, but you can use different sizes if you want. And of course, you know, you can adjust the height of it any way you want. You can have longer PVC pipe tubing, or you can have a longer nipple. Me personally, I like it at 4 inches, right about 4 inches, because the pivot point, I like it as low as to the floor as possible. That way, you know, it feels more authentic as opposed to having it up here. Some of your HOTASes that you get, you know, it might be a Virpil or a Windwing. They don't necessarily go to the bottom, go to the all the way to the floor, and if they do, they're pretty expensive. So a lot of them are desktop, or they sit, you know, this high off your chair, basically. And it's not really the true authentic feel of a flight stick that goes all the way, that's mounted all the way to the floor. So with this being mounted to the floor, it's incredible. It really does feel like you're there. And also because I don't have a HOTAS, I had to figure out a way of being able to map important keys, you know, to my supposed HOTAS. So what I did is I got this mini 3-key programmable USB device, and then I just hotkey or bind important functions that I need to these, and it works just as good as, you know, anything else. And of course, I also have I've also needed to add more stuff to it, more HOTAS type of functions, hotkeys, things like that. So what I did is I purchased a number pad, and I assigned keys to that. And then of course, because I sew. I created this knee board, if you will, out of faux leather, a little Velcro and some straps so I can strap it to my leg. And then this just Velcros right back to it. And then I have, you know, certain features assigned to certain buttons. As you can see, I pretty much use all the buttons. But it really makes it more authentic, I think. And also on my rig, I have a foot switch. In this particular setup, I use the foot switch just to get to my map, my F10 map. And then I divert back to my in-cockpit view with one of my hotkeys up here on the flight stick. So again, everything is made out of PVC, metal. The base is made out of wood. It's that dense, hard, medium density wood. You can use that. You can use 3/4 inch plywood. You can use 1/2 inch plywood. I wouldn't go any thinner than 1/2 inch. And then it's covered with diamond-shaped vinyl. You can get it at Home Depot, Lowe's, any kind of hardware store. And then, of course, I have the SATIC pedals attached to this as well. I had to extend my board from the original one because and I don't like them to slide. And because they're bolted in, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, it is solid. And, you know, and then I've got kind of some cable management going on there. This sits up on my thigh right about there. So it actually works out real well. And then again, the device is set up and the flight stick is molded on top to fit the shape of the controller. So again, you push the button in, hold it, and then it slides right in, and then there you go. You're off and flying. And if you ever have to take it out because you want to hit some buttons on the panels, simply pull it out, do what you got to do, press the button, slide it right back in, and there you go. You're back to flying. All right, so here's a quick look at my helicopter setup. This is my homemade, custom-built collective. Again, I use the same mold here for the controller. So you simply squeeze the button, slide it in, and it stays there, and it stays engaged with the actual hand, your hand in the game. So it looks like you're actually flying the thing. And again, you know, it slides up and down, moves up and down rather. Very simple, very effective. It works just like a real collective. So as you can see, it's very simple. As you can see, it took a little bit of ingenuity to figure out what I was doing and how I was going to do it. So the base is nothing more than a 3/4 inch. I think this is 1/2 inch medium density wood. You can use plywood. You can use this stuff. And then it's covered with a diamond shaped vinyl. You can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, online even. So I glued that on it so it gives it a nice finish. And then again, everything is PVC pipe. This bottom part is a 4x4 that I custom built because I needed it to pivot like this. And I have a tension bar on this side so I can actually give it the amount of tension that I want. And it pretty much stays right where I need it. If I needed it really tense, I can just tighten in on the star knob back here in the back. So it's very simple, very effective, nothing fancy about it, and it works. Now, this bar here, this metal bar is there because I like to, sometimes when I'm flying, I like to look over my shoulder. I like to hang on to it. It makes me feel like I'm actually touching the console that's in between the two pilots. So it's a nice little feature. It makes me feel like I'm way more immersed. But again, nothing fancy. PVC pipe, some wood, 1 1/4 inch floor flange attached to about a 4.5 by 4.5 inch by 1, just a regular plank, 1x4 if you will, 1x5, 1x6. And then the bottom part is 4x4 that I custom molded this curved part so that I can have a pivoting point. Now you can make this any way you want. This PVC or this 4x4 works for me. I have other projects that this has worked. This design here actually came from another project. So once I figured out what I needed this collective to do, I knew right away how to build it. So if you have any comments, questions, give me a shout. Be glad to give you any information I can. Again, this is very simple stuff. You can get pretty much everything, Home Depot, Lowe's, Satec pedals. They're actually a link in my in the details. Mini, I'll put a link for the Mini 3-key programmable USB device. And then, of course, the numpad, if you guys want to go that route. Again, I'm pretty much 95% completely, 95% VR. The only times that I go to the keys is to exit, really, if I've got to get out of a program. That's pretty much it. Everything else I do with what I have, what you see in the videos, and this setup. And again, if you have any comments, give me a shout.